Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review. This is your host, Steve. Up next is the Eaglemoss Build Your Own Nissan GTR R35. This is issue 2. In issue 2, we get to assemble brake assembly, some of the rear suspension components, some of the engine bay components, and some of the front lights. So with that, I will come up next with giving you a detailed look of the magazine, all the kit parts. We get 4 parts packs with this issue, and it's going to be an exciting build. So stay tuned. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Here's issue 2 of the magazine, and it's about 38 pages. It's a wonderful publication, very nice print and glossy pages, very thick. It's not cheap. It's a very good magazine, and that's why if you want to subscribe to this, you get a fantastic magazine with a lot of articles built into it, plus the kit parts as you build along. So remember, this is 100 issues plus 30 bonus issues if you're a subscriber. With pack 2 that I just received, I also got the toolkit, so we'll look at the toolkit here next, and it looks like to be a very nice kit to own and to be able to use for building this model. If you haven't done so already, and if you live in the US, please subscribe to this. It's available to you here, and it makes for a very nice die-cast model, being 1/8 scale. Measures about 22.9 inches long, and after it's built, it's going to weigh about 22 pounds. So that's wow, that's just immense. I mean, we're talking about a huge die-cast model when you're finished. All the lights will work on it, all the doors, hood and trunk will open and close, and you can get a very nice replica of the 3.8 liter dual overhead cam twin turbo beast of a motor that is placed in this. Now remember, this is the 2011 Nissan R35 that's represented here. And when you subscribe to this from Eaglemoss, remember that it's about, like I said, 100 issues plus 30 bonus issues, and you get the free stuff that comes along with it that I mentioned earlier in issue 1. But right away, when we open up the magazine, we get an article on the GTR story, the mechanics and factory stories, we get racing legend stories, then we get into how to build the kit itself, that section, and then we have a spot on about a 1933 Datsun Type 12 car there. They give us a showing here of what our parts look like that we get with the 4 packs that are included with this. We get pack 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we'll look at those here after the magazine and after the toolkit that we received. But here's an article on the launch date for the new supercar. Makes a very nice article there. 2007 launch date, and more on that. And then they talk about the testing that went on. So this is back from Sendai Highland Raceway in 2004, where they have the 4-wheel drive SSV 400 test car based on the Skyline, and some of the engineers and people involved with that. Then we got the mechanics and factory inside the 2011 engine. It's a premium midship package. And they call it the VR38 DEETT engine. Very cool little article here about the new generation turbochargers that are installed on this. Very technical here. And then we got Racing Legends finally unveiled the GT500 specification R35 GTR. and this is for the Nismo Festival back Super GT Championship of 2008. Good article here on that. And then we get into the assembly. First we assemble the rear brake disc assembly. Looks like we have 3 steps to that. Then we do the right rear suspension assembly. And they do give us a screwdriver and a tool for that. Looks like we have a total of 9 steps for that. So that's quite involved, that rear suspension is. Then we got the lights and license plate. Looks like we have 3 steps for that. And then lastly, mounting the engine. And they give us a few components for that for a total of 4 steps. And then this we were talking about the Type 12 Datsun that they feature at the end there. That's pretty cool. That's a nice added feature there about some of the earlier Japanese cars that were out there. And then they give us a preview of what issue 3 will bring us. Issue 3, of course, they give us the magazine, and then we have 4 more steps that we will be doing with issue 3. So with that, let's get right on to it. Let me pull out the parts and the toolkit first. We'll look at the parts a little closer, and then we'll build this assembly. So I'll be right back. Here's a toolkit that was included with issue 2, and a very nice case here, a zipper type case on each side. As we open it up, you can see we have numerous tools. We have some tweezers, needle nose pliers, a file, X-Acto blade, knife set, and a screwdriver. So very nice there. I'm sure these would be very handy for building this. If you don't already have these tools in your arsenal, it is very nice to get this from Eaglemoss. So bravo to Eaglemoss for that, and I think it's a very nice set for that. I'll be right back. Here's parts pack 3 that is included with issue 2. You can see we get another screwdriver with this, and these are all the parts for the brake disc assembly. I will open this up so we can have a closer look at the parts in just a little bit. Here's parts pack 4, and they give us another screwdriver with that. I bet it's a different size in this case. And these are all the parts for the rear suspension. So once again, I'll open this up and we'll get a closer look here in a little bit. Here's parts pack 5, and these are all the parts for some of the lights for the front fascia. And I'll open this up and we'll get a closer look at these here in a little bit. Here's parts pack 6. This gives us some of the parts for the engine bay. And we'll open this up. We'll get a closer look of what's inside here in a little bit. I'll be right back. Here's the parts in parts pack 3. This time we receive the brake disc plate. We have 2 of them. We have a photo-etch plate, which has the drilled holes in it, very thin metal. And we have the plastic disc plate. We have the disc brake hub, which is also plastic. We have the brake caliper with the brake hose attached to it, and that is made out of metal. We have BP screws and BM screws, and they did give us a screwdriver. It's a Phillips head screwdriver, 0.06 inch or 2 millimeter. Let's assemble this and I'll be right back. Step 1, we're going to take and assemble the brake disc base, and you can see we're going to take that thin piece of metal and put it over the top, hold it in place, and then we're going to press fit the plate hub over that, hold that in place. Then we will use 2 BP type screws to hold everything together. And that will complete step 3. Be right back. Alright, we'll take this gold colored brake caliper and put it aside. We'll be using it a little bit later, but you can see it's nice. They actually have some graphics painted on it. Nissan brand gold hub. So I'll put that aside along with the BM screws. We won't be using that for this. We have 2 BP screws we're going to use for this, and we're simply going to take and insert this disc brake on top here, lining up the holes. We'll hold that in place like such, and then we're going to take and put this mount right on top, just like that. Okay, just making sure that it doesn't matter how that gets positioned. And we'll put our screws in on the back. Using our screwdriver that we got with this issue, we're going to put these screws in. And these are the BP screws because they're going into plastic. Screwdriver is magnetized, makes it nice. Don't want to over tighten these as it could cause some problems for you later on. And there you go. Our brake disc is assembled. We can put the caliper on it to see what it looks like. Kind of as a preview here. I think it goes the other way. Pretty impressive. Alright, let's do the parts pack 4 and assemble that. I'll be right back. Here's parts pack 4, and in parts pack 4 we received the rear suspension assembly. Now with that we get the upper and coil mount, upper and lower coil mount, and what they call the stroke itself. So this would be your spring-loaded shock assembly. We get the knuckle base. That would be the black part here. Okay. We get the upper join. We get the lower toe strut bar long, and the lower toe strut bar short, with the lower sway bar. That would be this one right here. We get the anti-roll bar, and we get some screws. We get DM screws, and we get EM screws and nuts, and we get two more tools. This time we receive a little larger screwdriver, and this would be a .12 inch or 3mm Phillips head screwdriver, and you can see it's a lot larger than the other one we received. We also received a wrench for tightening the nuts. I'll be right back. We'll assemble this issue. Now remember, this is for the right rear suspension, so on step 1 we'll assemble the shock absorber. So let's assemble the coil spring shock absorber. First thing we do is take the spring and put it over that mount there. Now if you look, there's a keyway here that this goes into, so you're simply going to slide it in with the spring installed, twist it, and then the spring's going to hold it in place, as there's a lock mechanism right there. So it's pretty simple to do. We'll put the spring in, then we'll slide the top mount in, just as such. push it down a little bit and twist, and there you have it. Be right back with the next step. The next step, we'll add the upper join to the knuckle base, and this time we're going to use our EM screw and nut assembly for that. Alright, we have our knuckle base and upper join, and we're simply going to attach these together using our EM screw and nut. And when you turn it over, you'll notice that we have quite a bit of detail going on here. We want to have this part here on top, facing on top just as such, and it's going to assemble just like that into it. And then we're simply going to insert our screw and nut just as such. So I'll hold it in place, and we'll take the screw and insert it just like that, and our nut goes on the other side. This may be a little tricky. Set it down. Alright, so now I got the screw installed here just like that. Now what I have to do is figure out how I'm going to get the nut in place and get it screwed down. And now what I want to do is I want to hold the nut with this wrench. Probably the best way to hold it in place, and this is an old mechanic's trick, is put a little grease on this to keep the nut in place. So in lieu of grease, I'm going to use my chapstick, right? My chap balm, lip balm, and use a little bit of that on here. So that will help hold the nut in place. Alright, so in order to get the nut on, very tight, I can't get my fingers in there, put a little lip balm on the wrench to hold the nut in place so it's not going anywhere. I don't want the screw to go all the way through, so I can put it up against there. Now what I'm going to do to make it easier, I'm just going to close this. Okay, so now you can kind of see what's going on with that. Now I can line my nut up on this side. And that seemed to work. It's a little bit fiddly, but that did work. I want to hold it tight. While I screw it together here. I can pretty much hold it with my finger for now. A little bit. Just hold it with my finger. Put the wrench on it a little bit later till I get it screwed down some. There you have it there. Put the wrench on it. Like that. And tighten it, but I don't want to over tighten it because we want to have a little bit of rotation still. There we go. And that's assembled. A little bit fiddly, but it is done. Next we're going to assemble the upper mount and coil spring and stroke to the knuckle base. So this is going to slot in much the same way as we did with this other one. We're going to have to use the same technique to hold the nut in place. But basically this is going to slot in to this assembly right here. Can you see that? You can see the hole there? And it's basically going to slide in place like that. And then we're going to put our screw in. Okay, we don't want it to go in all the way. You want to put it from the outside, so this is not in the way or blocking in any way. And then we'll put our screw in. Of course, we don't want it to go in all the way. just like that. Alright, now we got the screw inserted there. I'm going to take, instead of using lip balm to hold it in place, I'm going to use some tape. So it has a little bit of strength on the back side to hold it in place there while I try to screw it down. Notice I have the tape flush here, so it's not going to interfere with me getting it in position here. And let's try that. Yeah, it looks like it worked. There we go. So definitely that's a plus, using a little bit of Scotch tape to hold it in place while you try to insert it. Very fiddly. Now we can tighten it down a little bit. Perfect. And there you go. There's those assembled together. Next we install the lower toes, both the short and long. Same technique, we're going to use the EM screws and nuts for this. These should be a little bit easier than the other two. Now let's assemble the lower toe strut bars. We put the longer one over here on this side, just like that. And we put the shorter one over here on this side, just like that. So, with that, we want to have our nuts going in the same direction for both. So once we got this arm in, we'll put our screw through. There we go. And we'll put our nuts on there. I think I'll do the same thing with the tape. Put this on there like that. Hold it in place with the tape. And then we can screw it in place. Seems to work best. Okay, I'm just going to leave that loose for now. Now the next one, we'll slot that in just like that. We'll put the EM screw in. Just like that. And I think I can just hold the nut while I screw it in place, because there's room to do it. Before, you really don't have room for that. Get it to where it's not going to cross thread. There we go. Go ahead and tighten these down. Use my wrench. That's tight. And last one here. Thread it on a little more. This is easy to get to, so it's not so hard to do with your finger. And tighten it down. There we go. And we have everything assembled for that. Got a few more steps with this. Next we'll install the lower sway bar onto the knuckle base, and we're going to use a DM type screw for that. Next we'll install our sway bar onto this, and it looks like it goes on just like that. Now this is metal, or is it plastic? I believe it's plastic. So this is the only non-metal part for the suspension so far, and it's just going to go down right on that lug right there. If you can see, just like that. And then our DM screw will hold it in place. We got to screw this into metal here. It's got to be threaded. So once this is in place, we'll put our DM screw in. I think to help us along with that, I'm going to put a little lip balm in there to help the threads more. That's just going to help lubricate it, help us screw it in better. And I did that with the DeLorean build, and it really helped out a lot. And yeah, that works really good. So we can tighten it down with no issues. There we go. Leave it just a little loose so we have some rotation here. Good. And there you go. Next we install the anti-roll bar onto the knuckle base, and we're using a DM screw for that. And you can see how it is positioned. We'll try to do the same. Here's the anti-roll bar itself, which is a nice piece of sprung wire for that. We'll get our DM screw ready to go. I think I want to put a little grease in the hole to help it along. Just use that little applicator here. Just like that. And it looks like it goes on just like that. Okay, and it looks like it positions just like that, where it's up against that, and it's going to go across. Yep. Just like that. And it looks like the last step we're going to do is the brake caliper. With the brake caliper, we're simply going to line it up with these flanges right here. With those flanges, simply going to go just like that. And these take the BM screws, 2 of them. Just like that. Not very hard to do at all. Once again, we don't want to over tighten these, but they need to be snug. And there we go. That completes step 7 of this process. There's a lot going on here. A lot. Alright, the last 2 steps, step 8 and 9. Step 8, we install the brake caliper. And step 9, we install the wheel. Now, we're not going to install the hubcap on the wheel because later on they tell us in step 19 we get some washers to washer this up in case the wheel is a little wobbly on the axle. So we're just going to install it temporarily for now to see how it works. But for now, we'll go ahead and do the brake disc first and just trying to look at how it goes on. So this is going to be inserted that way. So if we look at the hub here, you can see we have the axle right there, and this is going to go on just like that. So this slides into the hub just like that. And you can see, and we're going to use our first CM screw, which is pretty large. If you look at that, that's to mount the wheel. Before I put the wheel in, I'm going to put a little bit of lip balm to help lubricate, get everything threaded in place. Put the wheel on. Insert that back in there. And there we have it. Rear suspension and wheel, brake, caliper. Looks good so far. I'll be right back with the next part of this build. Here's parts pack 5, a closer look at this. With this we have the daytime left and right light assemblies. These are plastic chrome plated. Then we have the left and right turn signals. These are a clear plastic painted with a little bit of silver in the background. Then we have the license plate, which is made of metal. Has Nissan on it. Very nice. Then we have some more screws here. We have AM screws, BM screws, and BP screws. And they give us a nice buffing cloth for the model itself. So that makes it very nice there. So let's assemble this section. I'll be right back. With step one, we've got to gather the fascia, and we're going to install the daytime lights themselves. We're using some AM screws. We're going to put them on each side there. Alright, here's the fascia. We're going to turn it around. We're going to install these daytime running lights. I did a test fit first to make sure I had the proper side on here, which I do now. And we'll go ahead and turn them around. You'll notice that there's already clear parts installed here. So the clear covers are already there. Just make sure they're clean. You can take a Q-tip or something and clean them off first on both sides. That's including the inside. And once you do that, then you can install these bad boys. And I got the ad flipped around, so we'll just move those over, and that's how they go. They only go one way. So there you have that and that. Turn it over. See how they look. Those are your daytime running lights. So we use AM screws for this. Which is a pretty big screw, actually. Don't want to over tighten them too much, you could break the plastic. I want to stop when you get a little bit of resistance. That's it there. And we'll do the other side. I like to get them both started and then tighten them down. There we go. And they are both installed. Give it a look. And look very nice. Now they want us to install the front left and right turn signals. And that's these parts here. So we'll turn it over again and we'll figure out which goes where. So these only go on one way, and that is correct for that one. Looks like we use BP screws for that, and we'll have to turn it over to install the BP screw. These are very small, so we're going to use a smaller screwdriver. Hold it in place as we put the screw in. Okay, so we're screwing into plastic, so we don't want to over tighten it. Perfect. Same for the other side. We will insert that in just like that. We will turn it over. And there it is. All done. Got the fascia with our turn signals, parking lights. Great. And lastly, we install our license plate. And it simply goes on front just like that. We're using BM screws for that. Just 2 of them. So we'll turn it over. Load up the screwdriver because it's a small one again. I'm going to hold the back of it. And these screws are threading into metal. License plate is metal. And they are tight. And there you have it. That completes Parts Pack 5 assembly. So let's move on to Parts Pack 6. I'll be right back. Here's a close-up view of Parts Pack 6. With Part Pack 6 we have the following items. Now all of these are metal except for the engine bay. The engine bay is made of ABS plastic, pre-painted, and I think it's pretty nice actually. We have some brake lines going on here, some shock absorber adjusted lines. Very nice. That's what the back side looks like. So that's all ABS plastic. Then we have the V-type engine mount base. This is made out of metal. We have the right engine cover and the left engine cover. That's these right here. They're made out of metal. And lastly, we have the middle engine cover. Okay, right there. And then they give us the GM type screws, which are 2x4mm screws. So with that, I'll be right back. We'll assemble this parts pack number 6. So the first steps with this assembly are attaching the right and left engine covers. And those are going to be done with these GM screws that we received with this issue. You can see they look just like that. And that's step 1 and step 2. So let's get started. Alright, so I did a little test fit of these valve covers, and they pretty much look like they only fit one way. I tried moving them around, and this was the only way that they fitted. I'll take it off. We're going to do the right side first, but you can see there's holes here and tabs that slot in. They only slot in one way, and the way you do it, it just kind of just lays down in there. There's a little bit of an overhang right here, plus there's a space right there. We're simply going to put the screws in on the back side. Alright, so we'll go ahead and do the right side first. We'll slot that in like we did before. Turn it over. And we're simply going to put our screws in. Use our larger screwdriver for that. These GM screws are a little bit larger than before. And make sure everything is lined up here. GM, so they are going in the metal. I think what I'll go ahead and do to make it easier for me is I'm going to put some lip balm on these holes to make it easier. There we go. Just like that. It just makes these thread ends so much easier. And I think in the long run it's going to prevent corrosion for dissimilar metals. Shouldn't have any corrosion with zinc, but the screws may give you that. There you go. That's tight. I'll go ahead and do the other side and I will be right back. There's no sense in you watching me do that assembly. Be right back. Alright, last one in. There we go. So both sides are installed now, both left and right covers. Looks great. I'll be right back with the next step. Next step, we attach the middle engine cover, and we're going to be using those GM screws again. Alright, the next step, we do install the middle engine cover. Now with this, I did some test fitting on it just to make sure I have it going on in the right direction. So in this case, you want to make sure that this front edge is even with this valve cover here on this side. And I had to do a little filing on these right here with a metal file that I have here, and just kind of took off a little bit of the material, not much, mostly paint, to get this to slide down. Now notice I put some arrows on here so it helps me put it down the correct way, because if it goes the other way it doesn't stick on right. Okay, so definitely want it going in the right direction, just like such. And now I got it to where it goes down nice and bottoms out on the other piece just fine. Now, just as before, just to help me install these GM screws a little easier, I'm going to put some lip balm on the holes as a lubricant. You could use Vaseline if you want. I'm going to use quite a bit of it here because it helps protect the parts later on for any kind of corrosion. And then I'll flip it over and we'll put the screws in. We're going to use a larger screwdriver for these. And just like that. And I'll tighten them down. Got them both started. And definitely the lip balm help you thread them in easier. And keep doing it until you get some resistance. And that's it. Nice and tight. We'll go to the next step. I'll be right back. And the last step for issue 2 will be step 4 for packs number 6. And this is where we're going to attach the V-type engine mount base and covers to the engine room bay, or the engine compartment itself. So that's what it looks like when it's completed. So let's get started. Alright, so we simply insert the engine correctly into the bay, engine mount V base into the bay, and just orient it like you see in the instructions, where we want to have this hangover for the top cover towards the back of the engine, and simply just slots down into those holes there. Before I put the screws in, I'm going to do as I did before. I'm going to put some lip balm on the holes for the screws so it makes things easier. And I'm going to put it back down just like we talked about. Get my large screwdriver, GM screw, and screw it down from underneath. I'll get two started and then tighten them down. So this has been fun. There's been a lot of work. I would say doing the rear suspension was the hardest part about this because of installing those nuts. You have to come up with an ingenious way to hold the nuts in place. I think the cellophane tape worked best for me on that. The grease method, just it worked, but it's not the best. So I recommend using the tape on that little wrench so you can hold it in place, because there's no room to install those with your fingers. So like I was saying, this has been fun. There's a lot to do here. I've spent most of my afternoon building this issue 2 up, so it's a great thing to do. Very relaxing, something you want to do after you get home from work or after school. Just won't take long to do. You don't have to do the whole thing in one sitting. You can break it up and do it in several days if you like. But there you have it. That's the completion of issue 2. I'll be right back and we'll see everything we've done. And here it is. This is everything that we've assembled in the first 2 issues of the Nissan GTR R35 1/8 scale build your own by Eaglemoss. We've got pretty much a good part of the engine compartment done. We've got the front fascia done, all the screens, lights. We got the rear suspension, wheel installed, brake caliper. That was a big challenge for me with those screws. They did give us that nice tool kit that I showed you earlier. I have a nice polishing cloth for this, and we have the hubcap we're going to use a little bit later on that wheel when we receive the washers for the wheel. And like I was saying, don't forget to subscribe to this fantastic build, available for USA subscribers. It's going to make for a very nice build. Like I was saying, 22.9 inches long, will weigh about 22 pounds when it's completed. It's going to be a big car. A big car. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, hit the like, hit the bell for all updates. With that, everybody, happy modeling. Take care.